All right, and we are live. What is going on, my specialist SPC here? Welcome, finally, officially. I know it's been very long overdue, but welcome to my official Halloween ranking video. Now, I know it's been, like 2 months, I want to say, since the last time I uploaded anything. I just got a little on the burnt out side of doing the Halloween video, and I really wanted to also kind of let things sit a little bit more with Halloween Ends to actually have the right placement for it instead of me just coming on here and being like, oh yeah, it's number 4 or whatever because of this, this, and this. I wanted to actually like let things sit, let the movie marinate a little bit more with me or whatever. But we are finally here. We are finally doing this ranking video. I figured I would just do it live instead of trying to make a video because I will be honest, I'm still pretty burnt out from the videos doing the 3 for like the 4 or 5 weeks in a row I did. But without further ado, you guys, let's just get into the ranking. So we're going from my least favorite all the way up to my favorite. So we're going to go backwards, obviously. So kicking off the list at number 13, to me, what is overall my least favorite Halloween film, honestly, even just overall one of my least favorite films of all time, I will willingly say, is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Now, you guys didn't watch my video that I did. There's really only one 10-minute sequence in this whole film that I can actually give something positive to say. And that is when Jamie and Billy are being chased through the forest with Michael in the car. To me, it's the only part that has any sort of, and the barn. I forgot to talk about the barn. Actually, from the barn till the chase with Jamie and Billy. That is the only tense sequence. It's the only atmospheric portion of the film as well. But other than that, there's really not a lot to like about Halloween 5. We've got Jamie as a mute. They kill off Rachel in the first act of the film and give us Tina as her replacement. She's not a good replacement at all. We've also got Dr. Loomis is just over the top and crazy in this film as well. To me, it's just, and the worst, personally, the worst Michael Myers of the entire franchise and Don Shanks. I'm not a fan of Don Shanks the way he is. He's too tall. Mask isn't tucked in. And the fact that they have Michael Myers show emotion is what just completely kills it for me, unfortunately. So, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, stays in last place. Also, to you guys, from my very first ranking I did back in 2018, my list has shifted quite a bit. Shifted quite a bit last year as well. So, there is that for you. Just a little heads up here. So, if you guys want to go back and check out those other rankings. So I will willingly say now, from here on up, our films I actually overall genuinely either like to enjoy just enough to absolutely love as well. So taking the number 12 spot is probably the film that most people would put in last place, and that is Halloween Resurrection from 2002. Now, something I will say is that when it comes to Halloween Resurrection, I will willingly say this flat out. For a while, this actually was, when I first got into the franchise, was my favorite Halloween film. I don't know what it was that I liked about it. It was probably just because it was a new age horror film at the time. But the things I do like about it, I still do like. I like the fact that it's to a degree is like a found footage horror film, because I am somebody who, one of my favorite subgenres of horror is found footage. I actually like the portrayal of Michael Myers. I don't think that Brad Loree is a terrible Michael Myers by any means, in all honesty. I think he is serviceable enough. I just don't like the fact that you can see his eyes. That's the thing that probably bothers me the most about Brad Loree. But I will say this probably has the worst cast of characters of with, Buster Rhymes, all our other people who were in the house the entire time. To me, it's just when it comes to the cast is where the biggest downfall comes. Also, too, they kind of started adding a little bit more, digital effects in here, like when Katie Sackhoff's head gets cut off. It's laughably bad when you watch it. And of course, obviously, the opening part where they just kill off Laurie Strode. I mean, definitely could have done something a lot different and a lot better with that. Could have included her more in the story. But I do think, even though it is a mixed bag for me, I do still think that Halloween Resurrection, for the most part, is a pretty enjoyable time with how bad it is. It's one of those so bad it's good films. So it's a guilty pleasure for me. It's a film I can willingly sit down and enjoy. So Halloween Resurrection takes the number 12 spot. Up next, just barely above it, is going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, this is the film that on my Letterboxd, I even literally put it as a messy film with a great third act. The first 30 to 45 minutes when you see child Michael Myers is incredibly difficult to watch because of the dialogue and the script writing from Rob Zombie. Just the way these people talk, it doesn't seem like a very believable family. This, like, nothing really seems very believable with how these guys act, the way they talk, the things that they do. Like, while there are some pretty gnarly kills, which I do like the fact that there are some pretty good kills in this film, it doesn't help with the dialogue. The dialogue is easily the worst part of this film. But when you actually start getting more into the second part of the film, when you actually start getting into the John Carpenter version of the film, is when it starts to get a little better. You still get that Rob Zombie dialogue. You still get the over-the-top F-bombs. You get the nudity. You get the over-the-top gore like you're expecting to get in a Rob Zombie film. But to me, it's another mixed bag. But what puts it over on Resurrection is the kills. And I do think the cast is very good. I think Malcolm McDowell does a decent performance as Dr. Loomis. Of course, he's obviously never going to match up to Donald Pleasance. That's just never going to happen, unfortunately. I do think Scout Taylor Compton, to some degrees, is a more enjoyable Laurie Strode. And bringing back Danielle Harris is just probably one of the best decisions they could have made, because that's one of the things we were missing. We never really got something else really good from Danielle Harris, because she was great in Halloween 4. She really wasn't all that great, unfortunately, in Halloween 5. And obviously, of course, they recasted the character in The Curse of Michael Myers. So it's great to see her back. But overall, another mixed bag for me. But with the cast and the kills, does put it slightly over Resurrection. Bringing us into the top 10, and these next two, I'll be honest, was really hard for me where to put these. So just because this is lower on the list doesn't mean I don't like it. So just hear me out on this one. Bringing us into the top 10 is going to be Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch. Now, this is a film I've come quite a round to, because, the very first time I watched this was like 15 years ago, when they were doing, the AMC Fear Fest. They were playing all the Halloween films. And I watched the original Halloween, Halloween 2, and then they brought up Halloween 3 was coming out, so I decided to watch it. Waiting for Michael Myers to pop up. Michael never popped up in the movie, automatically said I hated the film. Waited about 13, 14 years. I decided to purchase the film because it was $5 for the DVD. And it was many years since I had last watched the film, so it's a film I've come around to. It's nothing, great or groundbreaking for me that makes it like one of the absolute best of the Halloween franchise, because I come to Halloween to see Michael Myers. I want to see him do his thing. I want to see the other characters we get. But to me, this isn't a bad installment in the franchise. To me, the things I like the most about it, I like the concept of these masks when you watch the trailer, how they start to kill you from the inside out, whatever. But I like some of the characters. I'm very mixed on Tom Atkins' character of Dr. Chalice because while I know he's trying to do things for the right reasons, he's also at the same time just still trying to get a piece of ass the entire film. I am not a big fan of the lead girl. I can't think of what her name is at the top of my head, but the girl who goes to see her father in the hospital after, of course, he's just been killed. Like I said, I like the concept of the film. That's, to me, the story itself is the biggest positive I can give. But digital effects, some characters, it doesn't work for me all that much. And of course, you get another awesome score by John Carpenter, easily probably one of the best of the franchise, I can willingly say. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about Halloween 3. I've only seen it, I want to say, like 3 or 4 times. I watched it twice this year because my fiance has never watched it, so we decided to watch it because she wanted to see what it was like. But not the worst Halloween film, but it's a film I've come around to quite a bit, but I feel very confident and very comfortable for where I've put this. So Halloween 3, Season of the Witch takes the number 10 spot. This is the portion of the film. Wow. This is the portion of this ranking video that's I might talk a little bit longer on because I do have quite a bit to say on this, even though I did do a spoiler review of it. Number 9 is going to be the newest film of the franchise, Halloween Ends. I will say this. Out of the trilogy of films, story-wise, I like this one the most. I think the story is a lot more interesting. I like the character of Corey Cunningham. I do like the story we go on with the character overall. I like the pacing. Also get another great score again by John Carpenter and his sons. But where the film falls for me is 2 big things that I can't exactly remember everything I said because, like I said, it's been a couple of months. But the utilization words of Michael Myers in this film is honestly kind of pathetic, if I'm being completely honest with you. He's not really in the film very much. Honestly, if I could guess overall how much of this hour and a half, hour 45-minute movie, I think you maybe get 10 minutes of Michael Myers. Other than that, the rest of the kills in this film are all from Corey Cunningham dressed as Michael Myers, which, don't get me wrong, I like how they use Corey. I like the things he does portraying Michael Myers. But I come to this film to see Michael Myers. And then the biggest negative I have is the ending. I can legitimately say when it comes to the ending of this film, I was confused at first, but the longer I sat on it, I actually was really mad. I was really just kind of aggravated with the way they ended the film. They led this film up to be the final confrontation, the final battle between Michael Myers, Laurie Strode. And the fight's maybe 2 minutes long. Easily the weakest fight, in my opinion, of the entire series. But for me, the biggest cardinal sin is just the way they handled Michael. And even just to the way they ended this film with Michael. With Laurie literally manhandling him. For an entire year, she sidelined herself. She didn't do any preparing or anything. She literally just became a legitimate grandmother. The definition of a grandmother. She beats Michael. Michael gets maybe a couple of good hits on her, but other than that, she completely manhandles him. She stabs both of his hands on the table, completely covers his legs with a fridge. She walks up, gives this dialogue, and just slits his throat, and then comes over and slits his wrist, and Michael just bleeds out. And then they tie him to the top of the car, drive all the way out to where Corey worked, and they just toss Michael in a trash compactor. That's how we end the legacy of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. To me, they spat on the character of Michael Myers. This version of Michael Myers, James Jude Courtney's version of Michael Myers, I will willingly say, is my favorite version of this character. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy, George P. Wilbur. I still enjoy Nick Castle, even though what they did with the character in this film genuinely just kind of, unnerved me and made me mad. But he is still my favorite version of this character. And to just see how he goes from being a brutal monster in the previous two films to just being this weak old man in a sewer. And then how they end this film, it does not sit with me. I honestly will say I've still only seen the film once. It's only been since the release dates the last time I watched Halloween Ends. But this one, I think, honestly has the biggest potential to move down the more I watch it. Even though I still like the story, I still like everything they do with Corey, I do still think the acting from Andy Matichak, Jamie Lee Curtis is easily the best of these three films. It just the way they handled Michael Myers, it doesn't work for me. To me, Michael Myers is one of my top 5 favorite overall movie characters of all time. And the way they handled it, it makes me mad just the more and more I think about it. So as of right now, Halloween Ends is going to be here at number 9. Taking the number 8 spot is going to be Halloween 2 from 1981, the original Halloween 2. So this is a film also that has the same kind of, legacy, I guess, for me personally, as Halloween Resurrection. For many years, this was my favorite Halloween film because I liked the story better. I liked the setting better. I liked Myers better. Mind you, when I first started watching the franchise, I was 12, maybe 13 years old when I finally legitimately got into the franchise. So when I first watched this, I was probably 10 or 11. But unfortunately for me, this has dropped the most of every single film on this list because back in 2018, this was my second favorite Halloween film. This was my second favorite Halloween film out of them all for many years. But the more and more I watch it, I get bored now watching this film. To me, it doesn't hit the same. It's not as scary. It's not as atmospheric. The more and more I hear about, honestly, the back end of the film, the way, it was handled, the way they had to basically force John Carpenter into writing the script, it kind of bothers me the more and more I watch it. And it, like I said, to me, it's gotten more boring over the years the more I've watched this film. And honestly, too, for me, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the characters, all the nurses and Bud. He's okay. He's a good comedic relief for the film. But my biggest problem in this film is Michael Myers, just like the last film I talked about here. And a couple of other films you'll hear me kind of talk about a little bit. But to me, it's not a horrible performance by Dick Warlock, but he is easily one of the lower versions of Michael Myers on my list because he's too robotic. You see his eyes too much. The mask just does not fit on his face the way it does with Nick Castle. And to me, I mean, the Halloween score in this is still decent, but honestly, after a while, it kind of gets to be a little much, I'll be honest. But it also kind of saddens me how far down the list it's gone. But, my tastes in movies have changed. It always happens with everybody. Your taste in films do change over time. You're never going to have the same feeling for certain films. You might grow to like a film more. You might grow to hate a film more. Obviously, it happened with me. And you'll also see a couple of other shifts in the list. You'll definitely see why, especially if you watch my previous two rankings. But unfortunately, Halloween 2 comes in at number 8. Bringing us to number 7, I will be honest too. This one was really hard to place in a spot too because this is a film I have a bit of a rocky history with. If you guys have been a part of the channel since last year, you guys know my thoughts very heavily on this film. Number 7 is going to be Halloween Kills. I will be honest, I really thought this was going to drop a lot more because I will be honest, during my recent watch along I did with Ethan when we watched the film, I had those same problems I had the first time I watched the movie. The dialogue, for whatever reason, didn't work. I watched the extended cut. For whatever reason, I watched the extended cut before, and it worked more for me when I watched it. But this last time I watched it, it was just like watching the film all over again for the first time. Still, this is the film, I will say, that definitively made me love James Jude Courtney's portrayal of Michael Myers. To me personally, this is my favorite version of Michael Myers is from Halloween Kills. I love the mask in this film. I love the kills in this film. To me, right now, it's been battling back and forth. It's a 3-way tie right now for my favorite score of the entire franchise between the original Halloween and Halloween 2018. But the characters in this film are just so dumb. The way they do things, they have so many opportunities in this movie to legitimately kill Michael Myers. And they just beat him down a couple of times and then they just walk away. Not only that, again, just the dialogue in this film is just doesn't work entirely. And to me, Anthony Michael Hall is easily, in my opinion, this is just my opinion on this one, the worst portrayal of Tommy out of every film. I legitimately hate this version of Tommy Doyle because he is honestly the reason so many things in this film happen, all the bad things that happen, unfortunately. And the pacing is weird because you go from you get this awesome opening with this flashback. And then you go to, Myers doing his thing in the Strode house. And then you get to the bar scene and you hear the dialogue. You hear Tommy trying to give this like gravitas performance, like he's like a Shakespearean performer. And he's trying to deliver the performance of a lifetime. Every time he talks, the way he describes Michael Myers as being the epitome of evil. I hate it. I hate this character so much in this film. But I can enjoy the way this film goes to a degree more than Halloween Ends because the way they handle Michael Myers personally better in this film. Yes, I understand, the people who have the problem with this film where he literally seems almost like he's the Terminator, like he literally cannot be stopped. He's just getting decimated. He's being shot. He's been stabbed. He's been burned. He does all these different things in the film where he basically just completely gets hurt. But then he just gets up and just walks away like nothing ever happened to him. I can understand that portion, but to me, that is what drives him. That is the evil of Michael Myers. That's why I love the mask so much because, you do still get the shape over here, but when you get the burn part over here, to me, it's it shows how much more evil Michael has become, why he has become so much more of an unstoppable monster in this film. Still don't even know why. I don't know why Jamie Lee Curtis is even in this film. She has really no part but to give us Loomis lines that don't work. That's still the thing this franchise has missed tremendously since The Curse of Michael Myers. But of course, obviously, Donald Pleasence is no longer with us. He died during the production of Curse of Michael Myers. So they tried to give us a new version in the 2018 film, but now they're just kind of dishing out lines that would be a Loomis line to like everybody else. So Hawkins gets one, Andy Matichek's character gets one, Jamie Lee Curtis gets one, and they don't work. They don't fly out of people's mouths like they did with Donald Pleasence, because he was able to make us actually be afraid of Michael Myers. And nobody's really been able to do that. And unfortunately, that's what holds this film back, is just dialogue, a couple of pacing issues, character decisions. It doesn't entirely work. So Halloween Kills takes the number 7 spot. Another film on this list that has dropped a couple of spots. Still a good film for the most part, but number 6 is going to be Halloween H2O. While I will say, personally, I think this is tied, if not the single best ending of any of these Halloween films, because this was the film that definitively should have killed Michael Myers. And the way they handled it in this film, the way they handled Michael Myers in the film, this was a good enough, satisfying ending to his long story. I do think this is the best acting from Jamie Lee Curtis by a landslide out of any of these films. I will be honest, I do think in second place is probably Halloween Ends, followed by that's the original Halloween. I know I might get the fork for that, but whatever, that's fine. Again, it's just my ranking, my opinion on these films. I do think that Chris Durant's version of Michael Myers isn't a bad portrayal. Again, it's just the same thing. You know, the eyes. I can't stand when they show the eyes, because it's supposed to be the blackest eyes, devil's eyes. But this doesn't really entirely feel like a Halloween film to a degree. This feels, a lot of people like to compare this to Scream. How this is like a new age version of Scream, but it just has Michael Myers in it. I see the point they're trying to make, but it feels a little less like Scream to me. That's just, again, my opinion. But to me, while this might be a shorter film, this is another film for me. I got bored watching it. You know, I like a lot of the characters in the film. Again, Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, she's the best in the franchise. I like her son, played by Josh Hartnett. He's a pretty good installment to this franchise. I wish we could have seen more of him. Everybody else, honestly, is kind of forgettable, though. Like Michelle Williams, she's the only other one I can kind of think of. But other than that, all the other characters in here are just forgettable to me. Not only that, but like the situations they had with the masks. There's like 4 or 5 different masks in here, because you got the original mask that they have throughout most of the film. You have the Halloween 6 mask at the beginning part of the film. There's like an alien mask where his head's all kind of oblong and the eye holes are super big. You even get in one scene a CGI mask, and it is just terrible. From what it sounds like, they just didn't want to, they either didn't have the time or they didn't want to go out to the trailer to go get the mask. So they just filmed the scene and they just digitally put a Michael Myers mask over Chris Durant's face, and it looks atrocious. Easily the worst mask of the franchise. But even, too, a thing that holds the film back is there's not really much of a memorable score. You don't really get to hear a lot of, like, the Halloween score, Laurie's theme. And to me, it hurts it because the themes, the scores are one of the big things for Halloween for me that make the films so much better. So unfortunately, that is what is holding Halloween H2O back here at number 6. Bringing us into the top 5. This is the film that has jumped up the most. And I'll be completely honest, it's been over a year since I rewatched it, but it's my recent watch. I'm still surprised at how much I liked it. Number 5 is going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. For years, and I literally mean years, when this film came out, I thought this was the biggest piece of garbage I have ever watched. One of the worst horror movies I ever watched. One of the worst Halloween films I ever watched. After not watching the film for many years, and I also finally got my hands on the theatrical cut of this film. So I finally got to sit down and actually watch the theatrical cut, because everybody always said, watch the theatrical cut. It's the better version of the film, because you don't get a lot of the Rob Zombie stuff that you see in the unrated cut, which is supposedly everybody's the only cut a lot of people like to get. But I enjoyed this quite a bit. I liked the great haunting score that they did in this film. It worked with the vibe and the atmosphere of this film. And that's the biggest thing too I got to praise is the atmosphere, the cinematography by Rob Zombie. Out of his Halloween films, this is his best Halloween film. To me, it's a second best overall horror film that he has done. I do still think Lords of Salem is a little bit better, but that's just me. But the kills are gnarly. This is probably tied with Halloween Kills as the goriest Halloween film. The way they portray Laurie Strode in this film makes a lot more sense with how just destroyed, how broken she is a year after the events of the original Rob Zombie's Halloween. Unless you watch the unrated cut, it's 2 years later, which I don't know why that matters, but whatever. Danielle Harris is great in this. She's back once again as Annie. You got the awesome Brad Dourif in as Sheriff Brackett, my preferred version of Sheriff Brackett. And the way they actually handle Myers in this film feels more like a character study on our original 3 from at least the original Halloween, the characters in general. Because you got the broken Laurie Strode who's trying to, fit in with society. She's still trying to get over the events of what happened, trying to live a normal life. Her life spirals out of control. She makes dumb decisions. You get Michael Myers, who's just this wandering hobo throughout, just wandering around until the ghost of his mother comes back and tells him, you need to go back to Haddonfield. You need to go back and bring our family back together. So then Michael goes back. You get to see the psyche of Myers, something we don't get. Seeing the way that he actually, envisions his mother, the way he envisions himself. How we can have this hulking monster, but he's still just a child on the inside. It's great. Something I never caught before, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit more. Dr. Loomis still sucks. This is probably my least favorite version of Dr. Loomis. It's one thing I will give Halloween 5's version, even though he's crazy and out of this world. It's Donald Pleasance. He still puts in a decent performance. I hate this version of Dr. Loomis because he felt more genuine in the first film. But then you get to this film, and he's just this arrogant, self-centered prick who just cares about nothing but himself, nothing about just the fame and the fortune. That comes with the events of the first Halloween. Now, you do still get your Rob Zombie. I just call them Rob Zombie isms. There's not really any other word I can use. You still get the occasional crappy dialogue. You still get some of the over-the-top sex scenes and stuff. Of course, you obviously have the over-the-top gore and stuff. But for this film, it actually works pretty good. I'm still, half the times I can't ever talk about this film because I'm still in just shock at how much farther up on my list this film has moved. How much more enjoyable this film was for me this time around. Oh, Scary Moon Zombie, yeah, that whole white horse crap, that can go away. You can get that out of the movie. Honestly, this probably would be like a 4-star film for me. So, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 takes the number 5 spot. Coming at number 4, might be an unpopular opinion, but is going to be Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, I didn't include the director's cut or producer's cut, whatever you want to call it, on this list. I'll be honest, if I did that, it probably would be barely above Halloween 3. I prefer the theatrical version better because I like the music better. And I like how they are not as focused on the cult stuff on the theatrical cut. So that's why I go with this cut. This was another film that has tremendously moved up. This was another film, the first time I watched it, I hated it. This was the worst Halloween film I watched. And then I watched Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and that took its place. Just like how the first time I watched Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, this took that place, and so on, so on. But this is a film I have grown to really just love. I love the atmosphere. I love the score. I love the portrayal of Michael Myers in this film by George P. Wilbur. To me, it is an overall very fall feeling, very, to a degree, satisfying Halloween film. The cult stuff, like I said, I don't like the cult stuff. That can all just go away. If that wasn't in here, that'd probably be another 4-star film. Some people don't like Paul Rudd in this film. They don't like his portrayal of Tommy Doyle. I actually don't mind it. I definitely like it miles better than the Anthony Michael Hall version of the character. I like Kara as well. I do actually think she is a good final girl in this film. I know some people don't like her. They think she's bland. They think she's boring. I like her. She's the epitome of a mother trying to protect her child. And I like the stuff that she does in the third act to try and save her child. And of course, obviously, you get the final performance of Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis. While they obviously show a lot more of him in the producer's cut, which I do like, that's the biggest positive I have for the producer's cut, is the handling of Dr. Loomis. It's almost to a degree sad to watch it. Every time you see Donald Pleasence on the screen, you already know this is his last movie, his last portrayal of the character. But I do think that he does do a good job at playing Loomis in this. This feels more like Loomis. Obviously Halloween 5 did not at all seem like Dr. Loomis. But obviously, all the backstage stuff with this film, the multiple scripts, the different cuts, the different directors, everybody's different version of the film is one of the big things that does hurt it. But to me is overall a good, satisfying Halloween film. And that is why it is here at number 4. But just coming up barely above that is going to be Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This was a film I never got to see from start to finish until a good handful of years ago when I bought the film. This is a film that I kind of didn't really have a lot of interest to watch, but over time I came to finally watch it. And I like this film, just like the last film. I like the portrayal of Michael Myers by George P. Wilbur. This is the first film you get him in. I love the atmosphere in this film. It is great. The score is really good. I love the main characters. You get the return of Dr. Loomis. You get Rachel, and you get, of course, Danielle Harris's debut as Jamie Lloyd, who is easily the best actress in this film. And personally, to me, still probably the best final girl in this franchise, personally to me. The only thing that really kind of holds this film back a decent chunk for me, though, is the fact at times it just feels, beat for beat of the original Halloween. While, to get back into this version of Halloween, I compare this to like The Force Awakens, because a lot of people like to compare that film to A New Hope, how it just hits the same beats, all that stuff. But for me, it works because, it just brought us back into the galaxy far, far away. And I do think that also works here to bring us, back into Haddonfield, giving us back into these characters, bringing back literally the return of Michael Myers. It's a film that I genuinely can say I like. It does unnerve me sometimes. The kills are great. It's got probably one of the better cast of characters of the franchise. But just the fact that at times it feels beat for beat of the original Halloween doesn't feel like it's got its own, creative juices going fully forward. So Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, is the number 3 spot. Coming in at number 2 for me, my overall favorite sequel of the franchise. I haven't obviously talked about it, so you guys should obviously know. It is Halloween 2018. This was an excellent return to form for the franchise. It brought back the true version of Michael Myers, the shape, even bringing in that blend of, Nick Castle, George P. Wilbur, how, you get the brutality of Michael Myers, just him being cooped up in Smith's Grove for 40 years, finally able to get out, finally going out, killing everybody. I do think the performance by Jamie Lee Curtis is still good. I just think her version of this broken Laurie Strode is just still way too over the top. I don't entirely like it. It's very unbelievable to me that she is this broken, this paranoid 40 years later. It's always been something that's bothered me about the film. I love Andi Matichak's character in this film. I think she is a very good... If they would have killed Laurie Strode off in this film, figuratively say, I think she would have been a good replacement for Laurie. I liked where they were going with her character. They kind of botched her a little bit in Halloween Kills. I thought she was really good in Halloween Ends. But that's about, I guess, where that is with her. Kills are gnarly. Easily again, as I said earlier with Kills, tied for the best score of the entire franchise. I mean, the Shape Stocks Allison is easily, if it's tied with the Halloween theme as being the best theme out of everything that they've done in the film. But the film kind of teeters off a little bit in the third act because there's some characters. I'm not a big fan of Judy Greer. I've never liked her really as an actress. I don't really like her character of Karen at all in this film until you get to the end and she barely redeems herself, but it's not by very much. But I love this film because it just feels like a real and true sequel to the original Halloween. I know for a lot of people it's Halloween 2 because you can watch it back to back and it feels like one complete film, one complete story. But I was a lot more engaged in this film. Comedy still hurts this film. It's always still one thing that bothers me. Once in a while, it's funny. Once in a while, it does work to just relieve the stress of the film. But then there's some times where it's too much. That's, I guess, another negative I never said about Halloween Kills is how they pretty much doubled up on the comedy. But to me, man, I love this film. I love the way David Gordon Green does the film. I love the score. I love most of the characters. Love Michael Myers. So that is why this film is not only my favorite sequel, but easily one of my favorite horror films of all time. Halloween 2018 here at number 2. And it should have been no surprise, you guys. Number 1 is Halloween 1978. John Carpenter's original Halloween. Originally titled The Babysitter Murders. But I mean, what can you say about Halloween that hasn't been said before? To me, it's an absolute masterpiece of a film. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. For many years, it was my favorite horror film. Unfortunately, The Shining beat that out. Just, to me, this is the definition of making a perfect horror film. The pacing is great. The score is great. The characters are great. The acting is good. Only little bit of a nitpick I have with it is occasionally with Laurie's friends. They're probably the weaker part with their acting, especially Nancy Loomis, who played Annie. But other than that, this is a flawless film. I have great fond memories of watching this. I love this film to absolute death. It will remain one of my favorite films of all time. And it easily is going to remain as the best Halloween film out of them all. So you guys, that is going to do it for this ranking. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please go down below in the comment section. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions on Halloween Ends. Let me know your guys' ranking, what your favorite movie is, your least favorite movie is, whatever you guys want to put down there. Just let me know down below. Also, if you guys are new here and you guys did enjoy it, I have tons. I've ranked the Halloween movies before, but I just got done reviewing back in October all the Halloween films. You guys can go back. You guys can go check out my thoughts and opinions, my actual in-depth thoughts on the films. And just please consider subscribing to the channel, you guys. I worked very hard on my Halloween videos. I know it's once in a while I kind of disappear for a while. I obviously, too, want to do more videos. Just been a little on the burnt out side. But I suppose, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you guys, again, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next one.